what questions do you put to them to help them look for the matches that are the true path, as opposed to being defeated again by yet another door, which then confirms their belief that they are not of value or not of worth?
Yes.
How do you give them the ability to wait for the matches?
What I suggest is that let's debrief all the closed doors so we see where you're not going. So let's put that on the table. And then let's look to see where there might be an opening. And if we get yeah, but, here comes resistance again. So we need more willingness. And then if we have a little more willingness, then we're going to ask, will you sit there and pay attention to see where something opens to you? Will you be willing to just sit there and be available to life to come find you and present you with some small opening that you could step into? And if you saw the opening, would you be willing to step into it?
I have a great example of someone that I've been witnessing doing just this. Absolutely using his patience and his sense of waiting for the matches to come with such an insatiable curiosity. He gives this as a gift to God, leading him into looking for the right channel. Not everybody believes in God being the guide. So how do you discern between the people who maybe want a different avenue, if they are looking for something else to guide them? What would you do to address that?
I typically ignore religion and all of that. I want to come back to, what does it feel like to you? If you feel guided and you want to attribute that to God, that's fine. But I'm interested in how you feel guided, how you feel moved. What do you move toward? What connections have come up because you're willing to step into new things? Who have you met? What resources have been made available to you? So I'm looking at practical things that are on the ground, that are visible to all of us. And if they want to attribute that to God, that's fine. But I want them to see how awareness works. That's why this is called awareness work.
It's fascinating to me because a lot of it is so similar. You know, the quality of person that he is looking for is very much like the work that we've been doing, looking for the authentic quality of living in a free state, and that's what he's looking for. He just calls it
something else.
Calls it something else.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you must see that all the time with all the different religions and people that you've worked with around the world.
Right, and I just bypass that because we're looking at something so simple and so accessible that it isn't complicated by belief systems or God or anything like that, or meditation practices. None of that is relevant. The only thing is relevant is teaching people how to feel and sense their way through life, moment by moment, so that life is expansive, so that life is free, and life feels like it's heart-centered. That's all it's about.
What about this quality that's come into our culture about manifestations, where you either manifest or attract things that you're thinking about, whether they are negative or positive, that things come into your life that you're looking for? How do you address this? Because it's quite a cultural phenomenon right now.
It's a complicated issue in awareness, but suffice it to say that our patterns attract matches, that we get in relationships with people that, even though it's uncomfortable, we're playing out our patterns with them and they're playing out theirs with us, and it all feels very familiar. And in the free state, the same thing is true, that when you're really free and sustainably present, you start to attract things that are a match for who you are. And you begin to step into those matches because your willingness keeps growing. And as a result, you begin to see how the free state really works. And that becomes the study later on, is what is this free state? What is this thing that we're stepping into? What qualities does it have? What are its constructs? If not patterns, then what? So you begin to start to look at that. But the matches and synchronicity are two of the first steps off that bus.
And then how do you discern between reaching out to look for matches that may be outside of your environment to proactively search for the more expansive relationships? How do you relate that to manifesting, so to speak?
That manifesting, I think, is one of those ideas that gives the ego pattern a lot of comfort. It's positive ego, like affirmations and all of that kind of thing. But what you actually learn by being in the free state is that as we travel along the world of time, we begin to see that this particular phase goes away, and now we're alone and things are quiet for a while, and then something new comes in, a new phase, a new relationship, a new career opportunity, and then that blossoms, and then it begins to wilt, and it becomes at some point a stuck place, and then we're back to this nothingness again. So you begin to see that there are natural cycles that go on in the free state. And then the work is to be able to be relaxed enough to be congruent with what's there, including the empty spaces in between events.
Wow. So a state of nothingness, is that really just a state, I mean, for someone, if I don't quite understand, is it a state of being? It is a state of being because you really are still here.
You're 100% present, but there's nothing that the ego world would say is going on. Let's say you're in between jobs right now, and every day is the same as every other day. The phone isn't ringing. There's nothing much to do except take care of your kids and make sure that there's, dinner on the table, and whatever happened in school gets debriefed. There's no work for a while. So you're in a space there that there's not a lot of creative stimulus, not a lot of activity. And so, in the free state, you start to get comfortable with those spaces in between major creative events, work periods, relationships starting, things that are recognizable to other people. But the space is a crucial thing to learn how to inhabit.
And that space, not only of taking care of a family, could also be a job that some people are not yet willing to completely walk away from.
It could be that,
right? In between their
then
creative.
that we want to really look at, because how much of that is trying to hold on to the old while stepping into the new, and we're bargaining between ego and the free state, thinking we can have it both ways. And then you start to feel inauthentic because you know in your heart of hearts that there's only one path here. But there's fear that says you can't let go of that job.
And so many people have to step into it when they can see something, right? See evidence of it.
They're looking for evidence, and that's why we want to document what actually goes on in the free state, so that you actually see, if I take a risk, resources will be here to support me. And that's not a concept, that's an actual thing that you experience. And you start with the little risks, so that when you go to take a bigger one, you're going to know already because you've been through this before.
Can you also suggest that people maybe look back into their past for examples of that?
That's a great idea, to look back for times when they just felt like they had to risk. They had to do something totally different, and that somehow they landed on their feet. And it's a miracle, because then they start to see, oh my God, I don't need to be holding on to this. I landed on my feet the last 4 times I did this. And this is exactly how I landed on my feet.
And can you talk about a sense of failure? What if they don't land on what they define as their feet?
And that's great, because if they land someplace other than where they expected to land, then the question is, and where did that path lead? I tried to go into psychology and anthropology. I thought that was my way. But look where I ended up, because those avenues closed down to me. Especially psychology, closed down to me.
Do you look back at it and ask yourself what was the the lesson there or the purpose of that?
Oh, I'm living the lesson of it. Here I am doing what I'm doing.
But did you have to go back and look at that moment in your life? Did you have to be introspective of those qualities?
Oh, I probably did at some point. I think I went through a period of disillusionment, not with anthropology, because that I could go back to in a hot minute. But psychology, I could not go back to because it's just too limiting. But I'm sure I did go through a period of being disillusioned, and out of that disillusionment, I started poking around inside myself because I wanted to be free. And I couldn't have probably languaged it that way at the time. If we were sitting here 30 years ago, I don't know what I would have said. I would have fumbled around and said something, but I bet you would have gotten the idea that there was someone in there struggling to get out.
Cool.
But you probably would have seen the thing that they were struggling with most importantly, because that would have been what I would have shown you.
And now 30 years later,
Yeah,
there's a whole different life path that's presented itself.
absolutely.
And is that it come back to, again, your willingness to be curious about what that looks like?
My willingness to step into this new space and to see what's there. To be the intrepid investigator, to always be looking to learn more about the Free State, and to be able to inhabit life 100% every minute, every day. That's my personal standard.